Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Take Quest Learning Point. I'm continuing discussing the question and answer for the exam Microsoft Azure Data Fundamental. Today I will discuss the part 5, question number 8100. This is the last episode of this series. The previous episode I already discussed the question number 61 to 80. I hope this discussion will help you to take the preparation for the exam Microsoft Azure Data Fundamentals. Okay, let's start. Question number 81. You need to design and model a database by using a graphical tool that supports project-oriented offline database development. What should you use? Option A. Microsoft SQL Server Data Tools SSDT. Option B. Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio SSMS. Option C. Azure Databricks. Option D. Azure Data Studio. Answer. Using Microsoft SQL Server Data Tools SSDT, you can create an offline database project and implement schema changes by adding, modifying, or deleting definitions of objects represented by scripts in the project without a connection to a server instance. This can all be accomplished by using the table designer or the transact SQL editor. Therefore, the correct option is A. Next question. Question number 82. For each of the following statements, select yes if the statement is true. Otherwise, select no. Note each correct selection is worth 1 point. Statement 1. If you have a platform as a service PaaS database in Azure, you are responsible for applying operating system data updates. Statement 2. If you have a platform as a service PaaS database in Azure, backups are performed automatically. Statement 3. If you have a platform as a service PaaS database in Azure, you are responsible for installation of the database engine. Answer. In the statement 1, Azure Database Service hosted on platform as a service PaaS environment handles most of the database management functions such as upgrading, patching, backups, and monitoring, as well as operating system updating without user involvement. So this statement is false. In the statement 2, it's possible to perform the backup automatically, so this statement is true. In the statement 3, no clients are not responsible for installing the database engine on platform as a service PaaS environment, so this statement is false. Next question. Question number 83. To complete the sentence, select appropriate option in the answer area. By default, each Azure SQL database is protected by dash. Option A. A network security group NSG. Option B. A server level firewall. Option C. Azure firewall. Option D. Azure front door. Answer. To help protect customer data, Azure SQL database includes a firewall functionality, which by default prevents all access to SQL database. The gateway firewall can limit addresses, which allows customers granular control to specify ranges of acceptable IP addresses. The firewall grants access based on the originating IP address of each request. So the correct option is B. Next question. Question number 84. You have a table named cells that containing the following data. You need to query table to return the average sales amount per day. The output must produce the following results. How should you complete the query? To answer, drag the appropriate values to the correct targets. Each value may be used once, more than once, or not at all. You may need to drag the split bar between pans or scroll to view content. Note, each correct selection is worth 1 point. Answer. The correct value for the first box will be select, and for the second box, group by. For using the group by clause, sales date is aggregate function produces a single value converting each group sales data. Date, sales date. That means each average sales amount is produced for each sales date. In simply sales date y is total sales amount. Next question, question number 85. What is the benefit of hosting a database on Azure SQL managed instance as compared to an Azure SQL database? Option A, built-in high availability. Option B, native support for cross-database queries and transactions. Option C, system-initiated automatic backups. Option D, support for encryption at rest. Answer. The correct option is B because the Azure SQL managed instance supports cross-database queries and cross-database transactions by using the linked server. Linked servers enables the SQL Server database engine and Azure SQL managed instance to read data from the remote data sources and execute commands against the remote database servers outside of the instance of SQL Server. So the correct option is the native support for cross-database queries and transactions. Next question, question number 86. When you create an Azure SQL database, which account can always connect to the database? Option A, the Azure Active Directory Azure AD account that created the database. Option B, the server admin login account of the logical server. Option C, the Azure Active Directory Azure AD administrator account. Option D, the SA account. When an Azure SQL database is created, the server admin login account of the logical server is connected to the database. This account is created when the logical server is created and is used to manage the server and its databases. So the correct option is B. Next question, question number 87. You need to ensure that users use multi-factor authentication MFA when connecting to an Azure SQL database. Which type of authentication should you use? Option A, Service Principal Authentication. Option B, Azure Active Directory Azure AD Authentication. Option C, SQL Authentication. Option D, Certificate Authentication. Answer. The correct option is B. We know that Azure SQL Database, Azure SQL Managed Instance, and Azure Synapse Analytics support connections from SQL Server Management Studio (SSMS) using Azure Active Directory Universal with Multi-Factor Authentication (MFA). Therefore, the correct option is Azure Active Directory Azure AD Authentication. Next question, question number 88. Which statement is an example of data definition language DDL? Option A, select. Option B, insert. Option C, delete. Option D, drop. Answer. The correct option is drop. Data definition language DDL statements defines data structures. Use these statements to create, alter, or drop data structure in a database. Therefore, the correct option is D. Next question, question number 89. To complete the sentence, select the appropriate option in the answer area. Transparent data encryption TDE encrypts dash a column to protect data at rest and its transit. Option B, queries and their results in order to protect data in transit. Option C, the database to protect data at rest. Option D, the server to protect data at rest. Answer. The correct option is C because transparent data encryption TDE helps protect Azure SQL database, Azure SQL managed instance, and Azure Synapse Analytics against the threat of malicious offline activity by encrypting data at rest. It performs real-time encryption and decryption of the databases, associated backups, and transaction log files at rest without requiring changes to the application. Next question, question number 90. A team of developers has computers that run with Windows 10 and Ubuntu desktop. The developers need to connect to and query an Azure SQL database from each of their computers. The developers requires code assistance features such as IntelliSense. What should developers use? Option A, SQL CMD. Option B, Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio SSMS. Option C, Azure Data Studio. Option D, Azure Data Explorer. Answer: we know that the Azure Data Studio supports the cross-platform database tool for data professionals who use on-premises and cloud data platforms on Windows, Mac OS, and Linux. Azure Data Studio offers a modern editor experience with IntelliSense code snippets, source control integration, and an integrated terminal. Therefore, the correct option is C. Next question, question number 91. Which SQL statement should be used to instruct a database management system to use an index instead of performing a full table scan? Option A, select. Option B, where. Option C, join. Answer: table enhance override the default behavior of the query optimizer for the duration of the data manipulation language (DML) statement by specifying a locking method, one or more indexes, a query processing operation such as a table scan or index seek, or other options. Table hints are specified in the from clause of the DML statement and affect only the table or view reference in that clause. So the correct option is A. Next question, question number 92. Drag drop. Match the security components to the appropriate scenarios. To answer, drag the appropriate component from the column on the left to its scenario on the right. Each component may be used once, more than once, or not at all. Note: each correct match is spot on point. Answer: in the first scenario, to protect the Azure SQL database from another network, the security component firewall is the appropriate here because the gateway firewall can limit addresses, which allows customers granular control to specify ranges of acceptable IP addresses. The firewall grants access based on the originating IP address of each request. In the second scenario, the security component authentication is the appropriate for the Azure Active Directory Azure AD sign-ins to an Azure SQL database. So the correct option, authentication. In the third scenario, the security component encryption is the appropriate to ensure that data never appears as plain text in an Azure SQL database. Next question, question number 93. Drag drop. Match the Azure SQL services to appropriate use cases. To answer, drag the appropriate service from column on the left to its use case on the right. Each service may be used once, more than once, or not at all. Note: each correct match is spot on point. Answer: in the first use case, serverless is a computer for single databases. In Azure SQL database that automatically scales compute based on workload demand and bills for the amount of compute used per second. The serverless computer also automatically paused databases during inactive periods when only storage is built, and automatically resumes databases when activity returns. So the appropriate service will be the Azure SQL database single database. In the second use case, Azure SQL Managed Instance is the intelligent, scalable cloud database service that combines the broadest SQL Server database engine compatibility with all the benefits of a fully managed and evergreen platform as a service. So the Azure SQL Managed Instance service is the appropriate for this use case. In the third use case, Azure SQL Database Elastic Pools are a simple, cost-effective solution for managing and scaling multiple databases that have varying and unpredictable update demands. The databases in the Elastic Pool are on a single server and share a set number of resources at a set price. Elastic Pools in SQL database enable a software as a service SaaS developers to optimize the price performance for a group of databases within a prescribed a budget while delivering performance elasticity for each database. So the Azure SQL Database Elastic Pool is the correct search. Next question, question number 94. You have a transactional application that stores data in an Azure SQL managed instance. When should you implement a read-only database replica? Option A. You need to generate reports without affecting the transactional workload. Option B. You need to audit the transactional application. Option C. You need to implement high availability in the event of regional outage. Option D. You need to improve the recovery point object RPO. Answer. The correct option is A. That is, you need to generate reports without affecting the transactional workload. Next question, question number 95. Your company needs to ensure that an Azure virtual machine can connect to Azure SQL databases without exposing the databases to the internet. What should you use? Option A. Azure Application Gateway. Option B. Azure Traffic Management. Option C. Azure DNS. Option D. Azure Private Link. Answer. The correct option is D. That is Azure Private Link. We know that the Azure Private Link enables to access the Azure PaaS services such as Azure Storage and SQL Database and Azure hosted customer-owned or partner services over a private endpoint in the virtual network. Traffic between virtual network and the service travels the Microsoft backbone network. Exposing the service to the public internet is no longer. Next question, question number 96. To complete the sentence, select the appropriate option in the answer area. A relational database must be used when dash. Option A. A dynamic schema is required. Option B. Data will be stored as key value pairs. Option C. Storing large images and videos. Option D. Strong consistency guarantees are required. Answer. The correct option is D. That is, strong consistency guarantees are required. Next question, question number 97. Which clause should you use in a select statement to combine rows in one table with the rows in another table? Option A. Set. Option B. Values. Option C. Key. Option D. Join. Answer. The correct option is D because the SQL joins clause is used to combine records from two or more tables in a database. A join is a means for combining fields from two tables by using values common to each. Next question, question number 98. To complete the sentence, select the appropriate option in the answer area. Relational data uses dash to enforce relationships between different tables. Option A. Corrections. Option B. Columns. Option C. Keys. Option D. Partition. Answer. The correct option is C because in a relational database, each table must have one or more fields that uniquely identify that tables. Sometimes an existing attribute can be used because it's unique, but most of the time some sort of numeric ID is created. This unique identifier is called the key field or primary key. Next question, question number 99. You need to query a table named products in an Azure SQL database. Which three requirements must be met to query the table from the internet? Each correct answer presents part of the solution. Note, each correct selection is worth 1 point. Option A. You must be assigned the reader role for the resource group that contains database. Option B. You must have select access to the products table. Option C. You must have a user in the database. Option D. You must be assigned the contributor role for the resource group that contains the database. Option E. Your IP address must be allowed to connect to the database. Answer. The correct options are B, C and E because in order to query a table, we need select statement must have a user to the database and IP address must be permitted to connect to the database. Next question, question number 100. To complete the sentence, select the appropriate option in the answer area. Dash is a virtual table that contains content defined by a query. Option A heap. Option B, a stored procedure. Option C, a view. Option D, an index. Answer. We know that a view in a relational database is a virtual table made up of data from one or more tables that defined by a query. It's not actually stored in the database as a distinct object, but is instead created dynamically when a query is issued against it. Therefore, the correct option is C. That is end of the part 5.